Good morning, everyone. Good morning again. If we can have your attention, please. Can everybody hear? Can everybody hear us? All right, wonderful. Welcome, welcome. This is a huge crowd, and we're so pleased that every one of you is here. So welcome to the 10th season of Project 180's Strong Voices series. I'm Barbara Richards, President, CEO, and founder of Project 180.
And I'm Pamela Gore-Mead, a current board member and former board chair. Thank you for joining us, and welcome to those who are new to Project 180. This series is produced in partnership with the Boxer Diversity Initiative to educate the general public about prisoner reentry issues and how reentry affects individuals, families, and the community. We are thrilled that you've joined us today to learn about criminal justice debt from Professor and attorney Laura I. Appelman, who has written extensively on the subject. Aside from our residents and others who have been incarcerated, how many of you were aware that if you were incarcerated upon release, you would be liable for fees, fines, court costs, including fees for the state attorney and public defender, probation payments, mandatory classes, and penalties for non-payment? Can I have a quick show of hands for anyone who knew that, had that information? Okay, kind of 50-50. To put this issue in perspective, the average amount owed by the men in our residential program is $11,545, with balances that range from $3,000 to $50,000. This is clearly a very significant problem for returning citizens and, by extension, the entire community. Upon release, most can't meet even their basic needs. It can be incredibly overwhelming to muster the focus and dedication someone needs to recover from drugs and alcohol, while also seeking stable housing, a job, and a new social network.
So this is where Project 180 steps in. We offer programs that are designed to jumpstart the reentry process by removing some of these barriers that trip people up on as they rebuild their lives after incarceration. Without help, people easily get to the point where they say, I can't do this, and then they go back to what they were doing when they got in trouble. So in our residential program, we remove some of these barriers and provide a support structure that helps residents stabilize in 6 critical areas. We call these areas our pillars of stability. And the first pillar is recovery from drugs and alcohol, not surprisingly. 75 to 90% of all incarcerated citizens are afflicted with the disease of addiction. Active addiction is a state of disorganization and chaos that actually stops a person from getting a job or being able to support themselves in any other way, much less be a really responsible member of the community. To support active recovery, Project 180 requires residents to pass random and regular drug tests, attend 12-step meetings, have a sponsor, work the steps, and perform service.
The second pillar is housing. Having a safe bed to sleep in your first night back home is vital to anyone's sense of safety and hope for the future. Housing is clearly a part of our residential program, but you may not know that in our first week out program, we arrange for payment for our clients' first 2 weeks of program housing, so they can sleep in that safe bed their first night home from prison.
The next pillar of stability is relationships. So as the guys know, if you come home and reenter the community after incarceration and you go straight back to the friends that you got in trouble with, you have a guaranteed ticket straight back to prison or jail. So establishing a new social group is extremely important. It's actually essential. And that happens through this lecture series where our residents meet those of you who have never been incarcerated. They have an opportunity to do so through NA and AA meetings, through work, and through dinners with local church groups that bring great meals and companionship to the guys. Cultivating a new relationship with yourself is also very important. And so reflecting upon thoughts and behaviors is a very important part of the program. Over the years, we've discussed many topics that help men take a new look at old behaviors and thoughts so they can choose what they want to do next rather than react to the moment.
The next pillar is health. Taking care of health needs is not a priority during active addiction and very limited during incarceration. Through Project 180, donors provide up to $1,000 per resident for eye exams, glasses, physicals, urgent care, mental health care and evaluations, prescription drugs, and dental needs, especially oral surgeries, which are very important to a lot of our clients after they are reunited with the community.
Our final two pillars are employment and financial stability. And these two areas provide really great examples of how Project 180's programs remove barriers. We help our residents and first week out clients obtain the documents they need to start work, introduce them to employers, provide transportation to job interviews, and help them figure out how to get to work once they've gotten the job. We provide bus passes and bikes with lights, and once a resident has been around for a while, we help him pay off his fees and fines that prevent him from getting his driver's license back. And having a license results in raises and promotions at work, so we have matching funds up to $1,000 for that purpose. Removing those barriers helps our residents become financially stable. And when a person becomes financially stable, he or she has an investment in himself or herself and in the community, and has much more to lose by engaging in criminal behavior. With your support, Project 180 prevents the poverty, homelessness, unemployment, and criminal behavior that results when someone comes back into the community and has no one to help him or her.
Thank you, Barbara. Private donations and foundation grants fund the programs that remove these barriers for residents and first week out clients. This is why it is so important to have all of you here today. Your compassionate generosity helps motivated men and women rebuild their lives and restore their dignity.
The sponsors of this series are committed to helping members of the Project 180 family rebuild their lives. The full list of sponsors is in your program, and our major sponsors are Koski Family Foundation, now in their 8th year of sponsoring this series. Beneva, which donated our beautiful centerpieces today. Thank you, David Schul. Community Foundation of Sarasota County, which you'll hear about in just a few minutes. Palm Avenue Wealth Advisory Group at Raymond James. Verizon. Wendy and Jim Cox. And special thanks to the Boxer Diversity Initiative for their partnership in this series for years now. And would all of our Sponsors, board of directors, staff, and residents, please stand up. Thank you all.
A couple of announcements before we welcome our speakers today. Charles and Marjorie Barancic Foundation granted us the funds to open our very first home back in 2018 and our third home just a couple of months ago. Thank you, Matt Sauer. Where's Matt? And jumping back to December, we closed on our second home. We had a lot of help from many of you here today, and especially Community Foundation of Sarasota County, which has been a steadfast friend to Project 180 since our earliest days. Barbara credits them with teaching her how to run a nonprofit and the Giving Challenge for raising funds that kept the doors open during a critical time. We're deeply grateful for all they do for Project 180 and for the community. Kirsten Russell, Vice President of Community Impact at Community Foundation, joins us today. Kirsten, would you kindly come on stage?
I might be a little shorter than the rest of the people here. Thank you, Pamela, for that kind introduction. Hello, everyone. I'm Kirsten Russell, Vice President of Community Impact at the Community Foundation of Sarasota County. I gotta get this. Charles, I hope I'm not messing up your microphone. Oh, okay, there we go. All right. It's an honor for me to be here today for so many reasons, but especially in the presence of everyone here working together to create a stronger community by transforming lives. As I look around this room, I see a lot of people, but more than that, I see a lot of stories. Within each of us, we have deep hurts, fountains of joys, and trials of transformation. Experiences that have chiseled us into who we are today. There is so much power in our stories, in each of your individual stories. This belief is at the core of Project 180's mission, that each of these men have a story. Their past is part of their future. But sometimes, the voices around us and in our heads don't allow our story to take shape or to be told. Sometimes our experiences force us to modify who we are just to maintain sanity and to be safe. When this occurs, it takes something special, someone special to transform again. And that special for many people in this room is Project 180 and Barbara Richards in particular. She believes in people who can be assets to our entire community by contributing their gifts, their ideas, their efforts, and their commitment to others. She believes deeply in coming alongside people to nurture trust and build relationships. We all want to be known. Deep inside, we crave being known. This organization and Barbara and everyone who contributes to this organization helps to create those pathways for those to dare to be vulnerable, to be seen, to be heard, and to be known. This is why the Community Foundation is proud to partner with Project 180, and it fills my heart to know that we play a tiny part in reshaping the lives and trajectories of these men. As Pamela shared, nearly a year ago, our community foundation assisted with the purchase of a home for 6 men participating in Project 180's reentry program. Through the combination of a grant and a low-interest loan, we partnered with Project 180 to rewrite the new chapters of the lives of these men with the belief that these next few chapters will set a positive tone to the rest of their stories. Don't get me wrong, a house alone doesn't change anything. But as we heard, a roof over your head, and shelter and safety does. Project 180's reentry program offers tools, but the rest is up to the men themselves. Only the fullest commitment to healthy and productive lives will bring about the rewards they seek. And this is hard work. And it is so much of that work that goes on within them. It's like the cycle of a butterfly, right? We see this tiny caterpillar. We watch it eat all of these leaves and grow into this large caterpillar that then morphs into a chrysalis. We don't see what's going on inside that chrysalis, but all of a sudden, this beautiful butterfly comes out. That's what's happening, right? That's what the house represents. It's a place for them to re-energize, to reintegrate. To hold a job and maintain personal health, you have to have a stable place to live. One of the things that strikes me when I visit that home, my first time visiting that home, is how welcoming and homey it was. There were candles, there was food. It's funny, the things that we take for granted, like the aromas of cooking dinner and the sound of quiet chatter in a den. All of that takes on a profoundly different weight when you consider that for so many people who are released from incarceration, the months and the years that follow are punishingly difficult. A series of harsh realities that can feel impossible to overcome, but that is transformed the way that when they can imagine things that they never thought to be possible. I've had the pleasure of talking and getting bits of stories of 2 of these men. Yogi, who I met at the house, who took me around on a tour and shared to me what some of the most powerful moments in that house were: having his own bedroom, being able to walk right outside, his favorite thing, the grill, to be able to grill, to have the freedom to do that, and to have the fellowship of the other men in that house. It's very powerful, very transformative. And then just the other day, I got to talk to Mikey. And Mikey has an incredible story. But the part that resonated most for me about Mikey, he's had health challenges. He's had a tough life, and he pushes through. Why does he push through? The fellowship he has with his new friends, his son, that he's a role model to, that he talks to every day, because he's on a difficult journey himself in prison. And the other thing that gets him through every day is Barbara Richards, and the grace and the love that she shows everyone that she comes in contact with. And you might wonder, well, that's just a person, but that person is filling these vessels. You are all filling these vessels, and you are helping them to reimagine hope. Hope that maybe went out for a short time, but that transformation is building inside of each of them. While the current truth is that reintegrating into society from incarceration is a daunting task, it is one that can end in failure, but because of Project 180 and its supporters, and of course these men themselves, we are chipping away at the reality one day at a time. In this organization and the people within the organization and all of you in this room lies the hope that people who have paid their debts to society through incarceration don't continue to accrue debts throughout the rest of their lives. Through Project 180's compassion, innovative, and research-driven approach to reintegration, these men are able to change their lives, write the next chapter of their story, which plays a part in strengthening who they are and our community and generations to come. Thank you all for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kirsten. That was beautiful and eloquent. Certainly greatly appreciated. And we do appreciate you and the long friendship shared between the Community Foundation of Sarasota County and Project 180. Our partnership has saved and transformed the lives of hundreds of formerly incarcerated citizens. So thank you again. Our next speaker is the Honorable Rochelle Curley, who will introduce Professor Appleman. Judge Curley studied at the University of Oklahoma for both her undergraduate degree in business administration and her Juris Doctor, and was the first African-American woman to have been elected to the Sarasota Circuit Court bench. She recently completed a 2-year assignment in the criminal division in Sarasota County and is now assigned to the family division. Among other awards, she has been recognized with a Community Champion for Children Award by the Florida Center for Early Childhood Court and the NAACP Public Service Award in 2021. She serves on the Sarasota County Bar's Diversity and Inclusion Council, and on top of all this, she volunteers for Southeastern Guide Dogs. But we have invited her here today for a reason unrelated to these many accomplishments. Judge Curley is respected not only by the public she represents, but also by defendants who have stood in her courtroom, some of whom have been through our program. We invited her here today because she is a fair and conscientious judge who has made a positive difference in the lives of our residents and community members. Please welcome the Honorable Rochelle Curley.
Thank you so much for the warm welcome and welcome to the luncheon today. On behalf of Project 180 and on behalf of all the judges of the 12th Judicial Circuit, I would like to welcome you to Project 180 2023 Lecture Series. I would like to give credit and gratitude to Project 180 for recognizing the need for providing a safe haven for men upon their reentry into our community. Being involved in the criminal justice system as a judge and as a former prosecutor, I recognize the importance of guidance for those who reenter the community. It is crucial that these men receive guidance and direction to get a strong foothold on their future. And it is my honor and privilege to introduce our speaker, Professor Laura Appleman, today. Her education and background are quite impressive and extensive, and we could not ask for a better speaker today. She is a graduate of Yale Law School. She completed her master's degree and bachelor's degree at the University of Pennsylvania. She is well published. She is the author of Defending the Jury, Crime, Community, and the Constitution, and this book explores the challenges facing the American criminal justice system. She has law review articles published at Harvard, with the University of Wisconsin, and Loyola University, and just to name a few. She currently serves as the University Research Integrity Officer for the Willamette University College of Law in Salem, Oregon. Her dedication to those members of society who have been caught up in the complexity of the criminal justice system shows an incredible amount of empathy. Someone once said, "There is nobility in compassion, a beauty in empathy, and grace in forgiveness." And this applies to our esteemed speaker today. Please welcome Professor Laura Appelman to the stand. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Judge Curley, for such a lovely introduction. I also want to thank, of course, Barbara Roberts, Project 180 staff, the board, everyone here for coming. So about 23 years ago, I was a public defender for individuals in Manhattan and the Bronx, in New York City. And back in the good old bad old days, so I'm going to just get this little, when you were released from the infamous Rikers Island jail, they gave you a $1.50 Metro card, which was enough for one ride on the New York City subway, and they dropped you off in Queens at 3 in the morning. That was it. That's all you got. Today, with the help of amazing programs like Project 180, things are a little better. Not that much better. So at least a couple of years ago, Florida gave $50 and a bus ticket to those individuals released from their state prisons. So reentry is a really difficult thing for most individuals, especially those who have been incarcerated. Making it far more difficult, however, is the extraordinarily high levels of criminal justice debt that burden, I would say, 99% of individuals who come out of the criminal justice system. In fact, I'd go so far to say is that criminal justice debt has really metastasized throughout the criminal system. And today I'm going to talk about some of the details of what this criminal justice debt is and how crushing it is on justice-involved individuals once they leave the confines of institutional corrections. So let's talk about Florida. So as Pamela and Barbara have noted, the average individual who'd been through the criminal justice system has a considerable amount of debt. So I looked up sort of generally in Florida, the average debt, $13,607. Let's think about that for a minute. $13,607. In America, 50% of all people, not justice involved, just generally, cannot come up with $400 for an emergency. And yet the people who have been through our criminal justice and correctional systems come out with tremendous amount of debt. Now you may be asking, why? Where does all this debt come from? Well, I did a little research. I'm a professor. I'm very, very good at research, right? Looking, why does Florida specifically saddle these justice-involved individuals with so much debt? Well, the whole idea of criminal justice fees and fines and restitution and other legal financial obligations really started in the 1980s. And in the 1980s, the courts and justice systems began to feel a little pinch, right? And so they figured what better way to recoup some of the money spent on people in the criminal justice system then to fine them, then to charge fees. And so this happened nationwide. Then in 2008, during the recession, things got really bad for courts. In fact, in Oregon, which is where I'm from, I remember our then Chief Justice had a fight back, an initiative. They were going to close the courts on Fridays, just for everyone, right? So, average working people couldn't go to court on Friday. So thankfully, our Chief Justice managed to shoot that one down. But there was a real pinch. And so Florida and every other state in the nation thought, I know what to do. Let's fund the courts and the criminal system on defendants' backs. And this is precisely what has happened. So last figures I could get were 2019 for Florida, right? So about 4 years ago. Of the amount, I think, of outstanding criminal justice debt, so unpaid or yet to be paid or possibly never be paid, over $1 billion. 864 million was paid, leaving, well, I'm not a mathematician, I'm a law professor, but let's say leaving a lot unpaid. So 84% of people who have been convicted of a felony owe debt. What does that mean? Well, it means a lot. One thing that it means is that you can't vote. Why? Even though Florida, with great fanfare, finally, passed a law saying, well, yes, even if you have a felony, we're going to allow you to vote. However, Florida also passed SB, what is it? SB 766, which says, if you want to vote, you must complete your sentence. Well, what does completing your sentence mean? People are like, oh, yes, you have to serve your time, right? Do your crime, serve your time. However, serving your sentence means paying off all your criminal justice debt. So if you're not paid off the $13,000 or far more, you will never get to vote in Florida. That's it. So what else? What other implications does it mean that if you can't vote? Well, if you haven't paid off your criminal justice debt? Well, you're going to find a lot of hurdles to housing and employment. So let's say you don't get to go to Project 180. And again, kudos, I want to specifically call out the Sarasota County, the Manatee County, and now I hear the DeSoto County Sheriff's Department for working so hard with justice-involved individuals to try to get them into these kinds of programs. But let's say you're not that lucky. Let's say you don't live in one of these counties or you don't qualify. Well, where are you going to live? Well, if you've been convicted of a felony, you're not living in Section 8 housing, you're not going to get any housing assistance, you're certainly going to have a lot of trouble finding employment, right? Because a lot of employers, standard employers, Target, Trader Joe's, et cetera, have a little box that say, have you been convicted of a felony? And if you check that box, they can legally throw that application right in the trash, right? So you're going to have a lot of trouble in that. Well, what if, let's say, before you were justice involved, you had a job, you paid Social Security. Well, you may have some trouble getting your Social Security. You may, if you haven't repaid your justice debts. Why? Because they're going to garnish your wages when the Social Security thing, especially if it's federal, right? The state's just going to go, right? You'll never get it. Same thing with public benefits. So EBT, TAMF, our sort of modern food stamps program, you won't get those, right? Because you owe criminal justice debt. If you have criminal justice debt, and that can include, fines for not paying your child support. So in most states, and I know this includes Florida, also includes Oregon, while you are incarcerated, you are still supposed to pay your child support, which, again, in theory, is a great idea. It's difficult if you have no source of income, and most people do not in prison or jail, to pay your child support. So the fees and the keeps on increasing and increasing. That counts against you. So, in other words, individuals really, even with doing everything else absolutely right, can be sucked down and swamped by these massive amounts of criminal justice debt. Okay, so I did promise you to tell you what am I talking about with criminal justice debt. Okay, so I would say that the 21st century criminal justice system is really a labyrinth of fees, fines, and costs. So courts, probation companies, and legislatures impose financial sanctions for being involved in crime on millions of US citizens. And there are really 6 types of criminal justice debt. So, sorry, this is the professorly part of my lecture. I literally cannot help myself. So I'm going to give you 6 types, and then I'm going to give you some details. All right, so number 1 is restitution, and that is usually from the state legislature. So you commit a crime, often you have to pay restitution to the victim. I mean, not directly, right? It goes into a state fund. We'll talk about what happens to that money in a bit, right? So that's restitution. Number 2 are fines. Those often come also legislatively imposed. In fact, Florida, like most other states, has massively increased the amount of crimes, right? Those are all state determined, that you have to pay a fine along with whatever else, or other punishment, right? So you do this crime, you're gonna do your time, but you're also gonna pay your fine, right? It all rhymes. There are costs. Now, costs are sort of vague, wonderfully vague, bureaucratically vague, right? Be careful of that, right? So costs defray administrative services, whether they're incurred by the offender or not. Fees cover services rendered by the court. So this is part of supporting the court system. Assessments, right? I think this is, sorry, we're on number 5 now. Those help repay expenditures discharged during the offender's interaction with the criminal justice system. Note, the vaguer the language, I will tell you, the more difficult it is to trace where this money goes. Asset forfeiture, right? That's always a favorite. The federal government gets into a lot of trouble with this, where they're like, yeah, we're claiming your whole house because you owe $10,000 in taxes, right? Well, guess what? The criminal courts do it too. And so that's government seizure of property that was illegally obtained or was used in illegal activity. So sometimes, you see like the guns and the drugs and the piles of money. Okay, that's fine, take that. But asset forfeiture is everything. It might be your car, right? And in most states, if you don't have a car, you can't go to work. It could be your house. Really, anything you own can be seized by the government to help pay back your criminal justice debt. And finally, surcharges, right? Everyone's favorite. Everyone gets a little upset. It's like, oh, what's this surcharge? Ticketmaster surcharges, right? I'm not sure this is quite the Taylor Swift crowd, but I hear, having a teenager who also did not go to this, surcharges can be a lot, right? So what does this mean for criminal justice debt? It's just cost multipliers on top of other penalties. So that can be collection fees, right? That can be interest. So if you have, let's say you leave, prison or jail and you have $13,000 in criminal justice debt, depending on who you owe it to, you might have interest, like 10, 20% interest, especially if you owe it to sort of the sort of private companies that prey on the criminal justice system and justice-involved individuals. So those are sort of the general, areas there. One important point, unlike most other types of debt, criminal debt is not subject to release via bankruptcy proceedings. So if you don't, sort of like student loan debt, I have a different lecture about that. I can give it to you later. So you are never getting out from under this debt. So what does this mean? This means that if you have all this debt and you can't pay it off due to the other reasons I've given before, because you can't find a job and you can't find stable housing and you're not getting any help and all of your assets and all of your money has been taken away, you may very well end up back incarcerated, right? Your liberty will be taken away. Your probation could be revoked. Your suspended sentence, let's say you do a misdemeanor and you get a suspended sentence. Well, after your tour through the criminal justice system, you're going to owe a lot of money, you're going to go right back in. If you can't afford parole crossed, right, I'll get into this, like sometimes you have to pay for your residential or outpatient treatment, right, including your rehab, you're going back in. And this is even if you have served your full sentence. Right? So even if you've served your full sentence, you're out on parole or post-release supervision. If you don't pay your criminal justice debt, you're going back in until you do. So this endless cycle, which ironically costs the government more. I think the average cost for holding someone in state prisons for a year, I think in Oregon at least is like $48,000, maybe a little less for jail. So it's costing the government more, right? And so I do have a couple of solutions in the end, although I think we really, I will say solutions, just to cut to the chase for a minute, solutions in general are very much going to be a ground up grassroots thing, like Project 180, like the stuff the sheriff's departments are doing in these counties. It is very rarely a top-down solution. All right, so finally, I know you've been eagerly waiting. What am I talking about, right? I've been sort of vaguely referring to the fines and fees. So what kinds of fines and fees are dragging down these people, justice-involved individuals who want to re-enter society, right? Who have, paid their debt to society and want to rejoin society? Well, I'm going to take you through sort of a tour of the criminal justice system from pre-trial to post-release supervision. I'm going to tell you this is not a comprehensive list. I'm sure there are more, but here are the most common types of fees and fines. So pre-trial, right? So you have been arrested. So what kind of debts might you chalk up just when you've been arrested? Well, you might have to pay for a booking fee, right? So you've been arrested, they take you to the police station, they book you, you're going to pay for that. You might, bail. Bail's a huge one. Right? And some cities and some states have at least eliminated cash bail or shrunk it. Then there's been some backlash to that. But, bail's very expensive. And even if you have a bail bondsman, you're going to lose at least, and you don't disappear, you're still going to lose at least 10% of that. Let's say you're lucky enough to get your charge dismissed. Dismissal fee. Public defender application fee. So remember the whole thing about public defenders, Gideon v. Wainwright, the famous Warren court decision that says all criminal defendants have a right to a public defender for free? Except for the application fee, which is just to apply to see if you're eligible to have a public defender. Now, sure, most of you know, probably 90 to 95% of people who go through the criminal justice system are below the poverty line or have no money at all. So most, but you still got to pay at least your $50 for the public defender fee. And then there's actually the application fee. And then there's actually the public defender fee, which often if you go through, you got a public defender, but maybe on the back end, they'll recoup that, right? And that's in Florida and that's in a lot of states. Let's say you get out on probation, right? Either instead of a sentence or before, your trial, et cetera. Well, and this is another area of study of mine. The private companies that are run by private equity firms or large, international insurance companies, or they're just large publicly traded companies that are actually all in our vanguard and all. If you own any sort of mutual fund, retirement fund, you have invested in these, especially, just got to call them out, Geo Group and Core Civic. So they actually, many states, including Oregon, have contracted with them because they provide much cheaper probation. And so they, of course, because they are a private profit-making company, really put the screws on you and charge a lot of money for you to be on probation, your tracking, any breathalyzer test you might take. So that's, so people are actually it's not just courts trying to sort of stay open and criminal justice systems trying to fund themselves. There's, lots and lots of people whose whole job is to make money off the backs of impoverished criminal defendants. Just let this sink in. And who are those people? It's us. I myself. I use, I'm part of a 503B university thing, and, being me, I'm like, let me research. And I'm part of the standard Vanguard groups. Yeah, they all invest in Geo Group and CoreCivic because you make so much money. It's almost impossible, in fact, unless you just go and pick your own stocks, to not invest in them. So we personally, and myself personally, am profiting from this. Okay, so that's just pre-trial, right? We haven't actually gotten in front of a judge, except maybe for bail hearing, right? During adjudication, that's when court fees come in. So fees for public defenders, fees for DNA samples. Some states even have a fee if you want a 12-person jury trial instead of a 6-person jury trial for misdemeanors. You're going to pay. Okay, but the real fees and fines multiply post-conviction. So let's talk about when you're actually, let's say you have been convicted to serve some time. Well, you may have to pay your own jail or prison fees, room and board. Some places in California have a pay-to-stay rule where, if you want to stay in anything but absolute, squalor, you're going to pay. Prison phone calls, prison banking, right? I mean, there's been a little bit of regulation. I think it used to be 40 cents a minute if you wanted to make a phone call from prison. Prison banking, if you want, let's say, if you're in prison and you really need money to spend at the commissary, so you can have things like soap or toiletries or food, right? Prison cuisine is not known for its deliciousness. And why? Sorry, just stick this in. Because all prison food services are provided by the same private equity companies, GeoCivic, et cetera, right? Like basically the whole criminal system has been, in large part, especially within incarceration, has been taken over by these private companies. Okay, but if you need your food, you need something to eat besides prison food, you're gonna need your family to send money in, because the 3 cents an hour you're making at your job in the prison or jail is probably not gonna pay for that. And so, of course, the prison banking, which of course is also a private company, is going to take a big hefty chunk on that. If you want to get on work release, you're going to have to pay, right? The state is going to make you pay. There are also post-conviction levies. So you might have to pay for your investigations against you for your case, for the prosecutor's trial preparation, for the preparation of arrest warrants, for seating a criminal jury, for the lab services for the drug crimes that you are being prosecuted for. So you are essentially funding the case against you. Then, of course, there is criminal restitution, and basically both state and federal law says you're not getting out of that ever, right? There is and of course, all this is imposed on people without any regards to what they make or what they can afford. I mean, it's all most of the restitution is just statutory, right? Criminal restitution. And then last chunk I would say is what you are going to pay. Let's say you're finally released from prison or jail, but you're on probation, you're on parole, you're on post-release supervision. So in other words, when you get most people when they get out of prison or jail, it's not like, okay, great, I'm done, throwing off my shackles, gonna go walk into the sunset, paddleboard in the glorious Gulf. No. In Oregon, for example, it's mandatory, the supervision afterwards. And that's what, in fact, you're billed for probation and parole supervision in 44 states. So what happens if you don't pay? A lot of this pay-only probation, you're arrested again. Or if you don't pay, you're going to end up paying more in fees than your original fine amount, right? That's how you get $50,000. That's how you get $100,000. So this whole idea of offender-funded, again, the sort of very vague language. I teach my students that when you see sort of vague language in the criminal justice system, be on alert. So this offender-funded probation, post-release supervision, parole system shifts the entire burden of paying for it onto these overwhelmingly poor offenders. And even if, let's say, you say, well, instead of serving time, I want to do some community service. You know what you're going to have to do? You know now, you're going to pay for it. Right? So, all right, I see I have 5 minutes. So not to be all doom and gloom, although as a New Yorker, I can't help it. But okay, so couple of things. I do want to really call out Operation Greenlight, right? So this is one of the things that's been really important, and sort of these smaller sort of grassroots things that can go, right? So this gives Pasco County motorists with a suspended driver's license an opportunity to pay overdue court obligations and traffic tickets and then get their license reinstated. Because if you are living around the poverty line and you don't have a driver's license, you cannot go to work. Some other things that have been, really helpful. This is hot research from this morning, so it's not my little typed notes. Okay. Having a county eliminate cash bail, right? So most people, when given bail, don't run away, right? If you're really rich, if you're Sam Bankman-Fried, right? Not our typical criminal, he's going to go off with his passports. But most people aren't going to run. They have family, right? So that's one way to get rid of it. In California, they got rid of all juvenile justice fees in 2018. Got rid of them entirely, right? A start. You could legislatively, this is the hardest part, have a bill that restricts this kind of criminal justice debt after incarceration. You could have debt collection reforms, where at least this says you don't get to charge interest on the debt you already owe. Obviously, you need better access to legal services. One thing that I think would really help is financial literacy taught in not just for everyone, but especially for people who are incarcerated, so they sort of know what they're getting into and know the best ways to tackle it. But of course, the best thing that we can do is lobby for change, right? Lobby at state level, lobby at local level, lobby at the court level. Because for anyone who is concerned about justice-involved individuals and the huge amount of people that we incarcerate in prison every year, criminal justice debt is what keeps them coming back and coming back and coming back again. So to break this cycle, we have to eliminate criminal justice debt. Thank you, and thanks so much for listening.
As I was telling Laura that she was so amazing to bring all this up, she said, oh, I could talk for another 30 minutes about this. So I believe that's true, and that really, truly was eye-opening. I learned so much. I mean, I knew when I lived in California and worked in the sheriff's office in San Francisco that some of my guys who were in my class would go on to San Quentin, which was the receiving prison in our area, and they would, write back, we don't have toilet paper. You have to pay for toilet paper here. So, I mean, just things like that just are mind-boggling. So, Laura, thank you so much for untangling this for us and all the research you do. Please keep on writing, and hopefully some of your academic writing will filter out to us. It was really very eye-opening. So, thank you for coming from Oregon, too, all the way. Really appreciate it. So now I'd like to introduce someone who is very special to me and to Project 180, and that is Thomas Graff. Thomas is going to tell you about how Project 180 and your support have made a difference in his life.
Let me say a prayer, I'm gonna need it. Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and thank you. Thank you for all your support. Thank you for being here. This has been a long journey to get where I'm at right now, and it hasn't been easy, to be honest with you. I was blessed to be, I was raised up north by a loving family, and I knew right from wrong. My dad was a corrections officer and a substance abuse counselor for 25 years. So having that in my head my whole life, I kind of knew, I knew what was right and what was wrong, but always having that surrounded, you always want to be the defiant child. You always want to go against the grain. And of course, that's what I did. As I got older, I didn't really give a darn a lot, to be honest with you. I kind of just viewed life as a party, a big giant party, and just have fun with it. And I didn't think about consequences. I just went on, and when bad things happened, I got a slap on the wrist. And it did not teach me what I needed to be taught. And unfortunately, being a hard-headed individual that I am, I needed that hammer on the head, and that's what I got. I was in addiction really, really bad, and it sent me to prison for 8.5 years. During those 8.5 years, I had the support of my friends, family, and loved ones out there. And as bad as it was, I really didn't learn my lesson. That was a bad rock bottom, but it wasn't as bad as what was about to come. My next rock bottom, about 1.5 years afterwards, I managed to get 2 DUIs in 5 days. One of which I had my son in my truck. And the sight of my son watching me be handcuffed and the police having to physically take away my son was the most painful thing in the world. At that point, I realized I'm selfish. I only care about myself. Nothing else matters in my life. I need to do something. Before this happened, I was in a really, really bad state of mind, to be honest with you. I was really, really bad. Every night I'd go to bed and I prayed that God, I'm done. Please just take me. I was hopeless. I had absolutely no hope in my life. And I went away. I went to prison. While I was in prison, I realized that I had nobody. I had no friends, no family. I lost my house. I lost my truck. I lost my son. I lost everything along the way. Now what am I going to do? What am I left with? How am I going to rebuild myself? I have absolutely no hope. While I was in there, I got a phone call from Project 180, from the first week out, part of Project 180. And they asked what I'm going to do when I get out. I don't have a clue what I'm going to do. I have absolutely no idea what I'm going to do. I'm envisioning living in a Maytag or a Whirlpool box somewhere under a bridge somewhere. I don't know what I'm going to do. I've never been in this state of mind. I don't know what else to turn to. I've had other organizations I've tried to reach out to. I've got nothing back, and I don't know what to do. Hopeless, absolutely hopeless. So I got told that when I get out, I have a place to live. I'm going to have assistance in rebuilding my life. And it sounds good. Being in there, you hear a lot of promises, a lot of things. Oh, we're going to do this, and we've got this. At the end of the day, they did exactly what they said they were going to do. I contacted them every week before I got out. And when I got out, they welcomed me with open arms and love. It's too good to be true. I mean, coming out, having the jail shorts that the Sarasota County Jail gives you, and a white T-shirt that I found in prison, and now I'm being handed a cell phone. Here is a great reference for a job. Here are clothes, here's this beautiful home to stay in. What else can we do for you? Who does that? I mean, it's the tools they give you. If you cannot succeed with the tools that Project 180 gives you, there's no reason to not succeed. Let's just say that. Along the way, the growth that I've seen in the things and the people that I've seen around me has been amazing. It's a dream come true, to be honest with you, because every day gets better and better. I managed to get my driver's license back. After 2 DUIs in 5 days, the state of Florida handed me a driver's license. Okay, I almost passed out when they handed that to me. I managed to save up. I've got a truck. I've got a beautiful employment opportunity. Project 180 saw in me something and offered me a job to be a residential coordinator for the residence part, along with Seth Campbell, who's an amazing coworker. So, forgive me for being nervous, but I can't express enough the passion and the joy that I have from this program. When I tell you this program is brotherhood, it's exactly what it is. We travel everywhere together. We do things together. We're required to do things, but we take it to a whole nother level. The fellowship and the brotherhood we have, if something's going on with someone needs anything, we're there. We're going to go on a boat together. We're going to go ride around on jet skis, celebrate a birthday together, go kayaking together, bowling together. None of this is required. This is what we do because we're brothers. We're all coming from the same place, looking for the same destination. And if it wasn't for Project 180 and Miss Barbara and her love, there's none of this would have happened. And if it wasn't for each and every one of you and the support that you have offered, just being in here having lunch with us, I thank you because it brings awareness to the cause. This is a very difficult situation for a lot of individuals coming out of prison, especially me. Hopeless, absolutely hopeless. I can't stress that enough. But you know what? That hope has turned into faith, and that is a blessing. If it wasn't for this organization, and I thank God for Project 180, I thank God for the recovery community. I thank God for being God in my life every day. If it wasn't for that, those pillars in my life, without recovery and my faith in God, I would not be where I'm at today. That foundation wasn't there. All this other stuff would disappear. And the way this program helps you grow in every aspect, whether it be social, the friends that she mentioned, you have to have friends that are not part of your past like that. And I can't stress that enough how important that is. The people that we meet new, in this luncheon alone, the people I've met here, you're amazing. And I thank you for that. That shows that there is hope. There's something better out there. The physical aspect, with our health, with our dental and medical, that it's amazing how many people that need the help coming out of the institution haven't cared for themselves in whatsoever. But all of these together, each and every aspect of that together that this program has put together is second to none. And none of this would be possible without each and every one of you. So thank you very much from the bottom of my heart for all you've done.
Thomas, thank you so much. I think I can speak for everyone. You have moved us incredibly, and we really appreciate you trusting us with your story. So thank you. I know, I hope that, and perhaps I speak for many of you here, but I feel oftentimes there's a lot that I don't have control over in this world, especially even in the last couple of weeks. I feel that things seem chaotic and out of control, and I don't know what to do about it. I feel like there's nothing that I can do that's tangible. And my heart breaks. And I want to do something, and I want to help people. I want to help people around the world. But I understand that sometimes the ability to do that simply is not within my reach. But I'm reminded by Thomas and others that there are, in fact, things that are within my reach. There are things that I can do to make a tangible impact right here and right now. So I urge you to join me and others here to take some control over the chaos that you've heard about today during this luncheon and the words that we've heard from a number of folks today. Because we have a lot of chaos right here in our own community. And we can do something about it. When you make a donation to Project 180 and the initiatives that you heard about today, you will keep men like Thomas from having to think about coming out and living in a box under a bridge. And you'll help them keep them from doing that and so much more. And that brings me to a discussion of envelopes. So you're going to find some blue envelopes on your table. And you can use these to make a donation via cash or check. Or you can use a credit card. There's a little form in here that you can fill out. And if you don't want to do that, there are other things that you can do, like go onto our website, which is Project 180 Reentry. Again, Project 180 Reentry.org. And you can enter your credit card information directly onto our website. It just takes a smartphone and a credit card. And we actually do prefer, if you can make a donation on the website, it's easy for us and secure for you. The gorgeous centerpieces that I'm sure everyone has been admiring over lunch were very graciously and generously donated by David Schul, who is one of our board members and the owner of Beneva. Thank you so much, David. And at Beneva, you can show your emotions, and that is their new tagline. So I think that's awesome. And one of these beautiful centerpieces can be yours with a minimum donation of $50. You can obviously donate more, but there's another envelope which is right next to those beautiful centerpieces, and it's pink. So just grab a pink envelope. And again, you can put your cash or check, or you can simply donate via your smartphone with your credit card on the Project 180 Reentry.org website. And that's an easy way to do it. Just click on the donate button and you can pay with PayPal. But I do urge you, every luncheon I've attended, and I've been attending these since 2016 when I came to my first Strong Voices lecture out of curiosity, and have never looked back. But they always, we always enjoy these centerpieces, and you can take them home and enjoy them and remember the stories that you heard today, as well as the great work that Project 180 does every day. So take your time filling out the envelopes, and when you're ready, one of our very dedicated board members will come around to pick up the envelopes. And meanwhile, I think we're going to enjoy one final slideshow. And I believe Barbara's coming back up on stage as well. So thank you so much.
So we're going to give everybody a couple of minutes to fill out those envelopes, and then we will proceed. Thanks. Could we please have our speakers return to the podium? Please. So that would be Kirsten and Tom and Judge Curley, and of course, Laura Appleman. We'd like to say thank you again to our wonderful speakers. This series is really only successful because we have such fantastic speakers who come all the way from Oregon and elsewhere to speak to us and help us learn about the reentry process and why it's important for the community to understand it. So we have some plaques. We give these out, and they are all over the country by now. So to Laura Appleman, thank you. And Kirsten Russell from Community Foundation, Sarasota County. And Judge Curley, thank you. And to Thomas Graff. Thank you all so very much. All right, okay, you're good to go. Thank you. You all, not you all yet. So I wanted to let you all know that by this time you have received a survey in your inbox. And if you could take that survey, we would really appreciate it because it helps us with funding for next year's series. I promise you it won't take very long. Our sincere thanks to our sponsors, to Beneva for the centerpieces, our speakers again, our photographer, Evelyn England of Sage Art, and I would like to give a very special shout out to my staff. Chuck Dockery, would you stand, please? No one in the community is better suited for his job or her job than Chuck is. Chuck runs our First Week Out program, in which we reach into the prison system and find out who is coming back to Sarasota County. And Chuck does every single thing possible to help people succeed. He deserves a standing ovation. Thank you, and I won't make you stand up again, but these people deserve it as well, just so you know, and that's Seth Campbell. Where are you, Seth? And Tom, and Thomas Graff, whom you just heard from. These men are tremendously dedicated to the success of our residents. And this organization, you've heard a lot about me today, but I am only a cog in the wheel of this organization. Our board of directors is the most supportive group of people you can imagine working with. And I want to thank every single one of you for all that you do every day to support the men and women that we serve. You are amazing people, and I'm very grateful for you. Thank you. So I know some of you have come for CLE credit. If you have, your number is 2308953N as in Nancy. I'll repeat that for you. It's 2308953N as in Nancy. So you can email me afterwards, Fred, if you want it. Again, I'll email it to you. Private joke. All righty, so if you have your calendars handy, next year's dates are Friday, March the 8th and Friday, October 11th. We hope that we'll see you all then, and of course before. And until then, thank you for attending. Please take time to say hello, have a conversation with one of our board members, residents, or sponsors on your way out, and then have a lovely afternoon. Thank you for being here.